Hello and welcome to week 4 of the Foot Weekly podcast. I can't believe it's week 4 already. We're going to do a content pod here. And yeah, actually my voice is a bit gone because I was at an MLS match yesterday. And we have, I don't know whether you've been to an MLS match, Japes, actually. Have you been to one before?
I have been to a couple MLS matches, a couple MLS All-Star games. Been to an MLS Cup final, which was fun.
Oh, great. Nice. Yeah.
So while not a regular MLS attendee, I have been to... kind of across the board.
Yeah.
Multiple different cities, Ben. Got to test it all out.
Well, shout out to Alex and Andrew, supporters of the pod, who invited me along to watch Cincinnati take on DC United. They won and got through to the playoffs. So, yeah, it was a good event. Enjoyed it. And this pod will also be a good event, I'm sure. We have with us Richard Buckley as well, esports commentator and a man who knows his foot. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, Ben. I feel like I've just stepped into like a smooth jazz coffee shop with the mellow nature of the podcast today.
It's early over here, and I literally rolled out of bed, I think, maybe 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Just before my 2-year-old and 2-week-old had a terrible night. But the pod must go on.
Yeah. I can't claim to have had that bad night at all, but it does feel pretty early, especially as we normally do the podcast afternoon UK time. But this is like 8 a.m. for me, which is not as early as your 7 a.m. But anyway, enough of times. Great to have you on, Richard. And we can introduce a brand new guest to the podcast, making his debut. It's Josh, aka SpreadsheetFIFA. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you very much. I only have the same dulcet northern tones as Richard. Unfortunately, I don't have the smooth come to bed voice that you two have got, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, mine isn't quite like this normally, but for those who don't know, I guess you became known in the scene for creating spreadsheets around FIFA. And what kind of spreadsheets? Not just the Matt Team of the Year tracker, right?
No, the ongoing war of the Team of the Year pack projects between me and Matt is stuff of legend. But mainly just League SBCs initially, like how to grind League SBCs by inputting what you had in the club, showing you what you could complete for the cheapest price and what packs you'd get back. I was an accountant, and so FIFA and spreadsheets were my two loves, and combined them together. And I'm delighted I picked SpreadsheetFIFA. We'll run with it. We'll keep with that name for a long time. But yeah, I just released recently the Weekend League tracker, so you can kind of track all your stats from Weekend League. It's a bit of a manual input, but it points out who's letting you down, 𝘵𝗫𝗀𝘀𝘁 in your Weekend League team or Foot Champs team.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. And I guess we're kind of like the UK foot accountant then, really. I mean...
Yeah, I could have gone at accountant foot and then we'd just switched it around. But no, I'll leave the accountancy to him. I'll stick to spreadsheets.
Yeah. Great. No, it's good to have you on. And we are going to start off by doing what we always do, and that is the pound for pound Powerhouse. For those who don't know, this is the best value player that normally has been released over the past week, but we are going to expand it out, as we often do, to players more generally, because we've only had the database for like 2-3 weeks. So it is allowed to not be a recently released player. I quite like if it is a recently released player, get bonus points. But before we do, actually, I should say last week's winner is the 3 Portuguese league players from Springford, which was Porro, Grimaldo and Rafa. I feel like slightly illegal to go for 3 players.
That feels like cheating.
Yeah. So, and that would mean Corona won. So obviously I'd be happy about that. But we'll give it to the listener. Listener's always first, of course. And we'll move into our own nominations. So we almost always have the special guest, if you like, the one who hasn't been on so much, go first to give them the best opportunity to nab players we might have gone for. So Josh, you will go first. Hopefully you've got someone in mind for this. Who would you go for as best value?
I do. I was going to go down the cheeky route and go for a 25,000 coin tradable hero pack as my pound for pound this week.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm going to go for a slight left field choice. 𝗵𝗀𝗁𝘀𝘁 the Dortmund centre back, Sula's little brother, is absolutely unbelievable in both boxes, as Bayern found out at the weekend. He is ginormous, 6'3". He's always on the edge of the 6-yard box when I'm taking my corners, and he must have scored 8, 9, 10 goals for me in Foot Champs from corners, which, not the passing it short and passing it around the box, but just winning a header. I can't explain how good he is in the air, but his ones to watch is super cheap, and although Dortmund haven't won any games yet, if he gets his upgrade to an 84, I think he's going to be a brilliant centre-back to pair with someone like Ozula. If you give him an anchor, he becomes a lengthy boy, which is obviously all important, but he's got 95 standing tackle And I don't know if it's his 87 defensive awareness, but whenever the ball got loose in the box, he's always a person who picks it up. He was always a person who got a block in. So yeah, he kind of surprised me. I just played him. I'm running first owner this year, and he was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. He is really good. I actually also have used him. I think it was actually in the friendlies that they did, the first owner ones.
Yeah.
Because I packed his want to watch. Actually, he wasn't my want to watch player, just in a random pack. So I chucked him into the team because he worked for Chem. And yeah, agree. Really good player. For 13k, it's not far off discard for the want to watch. A great first suggestion. Let us go to Richard. Who would you like to put forward this week?
I'm going to go with Gosens, the objective.
Oh, yeah.
Very simple to do when you look at the objectives themselves. Because it is a live foot item, he's got potential to go up. I think Inter, if memory serves correct, are in the same group as Bayern, second at the moment, but Barcelona are also in that group. So it's basically going to be Bayern +1 to go through, whether that's Inter or Barcelona. Mm-hmm. But he's already very good as it stands, and he's got the versatility to be able to play left wing back, left back, or left mid with the position modifiers. So he gives you a little bit of extra sort of squad building creativity. And I just think at this point of the game, it's a very, very good objective to do for not that much work.
Yeah. Right. 2 great suggestions so far. How are you going to follow that, Japes? Got anyone up your sleeve?
Oh, this is such an easy answer, Ben. Mm-hmm. Such an easy answer. It is a return to FIFA stardom, I guess, from FIFA's past, but Smalldini is back, baby.
Oh, yeah.
He is a man mountain this year. Here's the sequence. I bought Virgil van Dijk and I bought Smalling, and I was playing them, kind of side by side, toyed around with a 3-back, played them both in a 3-back. Smalling kept performing Van Dijk. So I was like, I kind of want the coin. So I sold Van Dijk. I packed Van Dijk, which is nice. Once again, Smalling beat him out. And for all of the 12,000 coins that I paid for him, he is the center of a back three for me now, an absolute staple. Easy to get links to 𝘵𝗫, English players, really, really great. If you want to use Tomori as well. So just a fantastic player this year. No question. Pound for pound.
I wasn't expecting that, but that's good to hear. So you haven't found his pace to be too much of an issue, because I know lengthy and all that, etc. But
he's just as fast as he needs to be.
And I guess he's in the center, right? And you can get away with it maybe slightly more.
He's also got a wild pace split as well. I think he's 55 acceleration, 75 sprint speed. So in terms of getting up to his top speed fairly quickly, which is kind of what lengthy does, he's gonna get there and be able to catch up really quickly with that pace split. It's interesting. I've noticed pace splits being way more important this year in terms of how players feel on the ball or in defense.
Yeah, I mean, that lengthy body type really helps players with that pace split. One player, talking of lengthy, that got mentioned a few times in pound for pound suggestions from listeners, which I'll move on to, is of course 𝘰𝘰𝘀, the inform 84 rated. Tom was saying that he's a dynamite discard, good throwback. An 84 inform for 12k is always a good buy, and this guy is excellent in game. His shooting stats are brought down by poor long shots, volleys and pens, but finish it on him, and he's got maxed shooting where it matters, except for 88 positioning. Lengthy means he accelerates very well, running in behind, and has a high ceiling with 95 sprint speed. He also has 99 dribbling, 90 composure, and 96 strength while being 6'4", meaning he's an excellent target man in the box, bullies all but the biggest defenders when backing into them. If this hasn't convinced you, take a look at his fellow countryman Haaland and compare their stats. 𝘰𝘰𝘀 has the +1 weak foot as well. Yeah, it is pretty impressive how well he stacks up against Haaland. In fact, Macca calling him his Viking king, and plenty of good pound for pound suggestions as always, particularly this week. You got shouts for road to the knockout stage Thomas Müller. Soviet Nil saying he's ridiculous value for a midfielder, especially in this version of the game where passing and positioning are so important, saying he runs the game. You got Ollie here going for Benassa. Kraus going for 𝘭and Tim here mentioning 𝘵𝘀𝘐𝑰 who he got as a red. Got him as a red as well, and he is, very, very good. The mobility, the size of him isn't too much of an issue. I think that's the nature of the game this year, which is nice. I wanted to mention, actually, in terms of the squad myself for pound, Moses Simon, Moses Daddy Simon, of course, for those who know. He is an 82 rated road to the knockouts item. Yes, his club may not make it out of the group stage, but they've got a chance of getting 2 wins and a chance of getting out of the group stage. And if he gets 2 upgrades, he goes from an 82 to an 84 to an 86, which when you look at his stats, is going to make him really, really good. And also the hype of that bigger upgrade, I think, could drive up his price. And I mean, he's only 11k, so pick one up, put him on your bench. He'll be really good there. I mean, 4-star, can't really go wrong. I would say maybe the other player, 𝘃𝗲𝗏, could be a good shout. He's 20k, he's very, very fast. I've used him in game actually, and he's really, really quite good. 3-star 𝘬𝘯𝘰, a bit of a shame, but maybe not the biggest issue this year with the outside foot shot. And found him quite a consistent finisher despite his stats. Very agile and nippy, but liked him a lot. And yeah, 20k, probably could go up higher because you could get an 85. Sula looks quite interesting actually, especially in the middle of a back three. And Konaté is one that, although he's more expensive, his price is pretty similar to regular gold Van Dijk, and there's an argument maybe he could be better, or at least in quite a few areas. They're actually quite similar players as well, so someone to look out for. I don't know whether you wanted to mention anyone else, Josh. I feel like Danjuma, the moments item, could be worth a mention at this point.
Yeah, every time I came up against him, I realised I was going to have to score 3 goals because he always scored 2 against me. I don't know if it's something about his hair just makes him really noticeable on the pitch, but he just seems to be everywhere. I think he was in a lot of people's starter teams and kind of like snuck in there really as an 82 rated. Because he's base left mid, you're not quite expecting him to be able to play at striker, but he has all the stats you need. Like 88 finishing as a standard on that flashback is... Yeah, he was terrifying to come up against, especially when he was getting subbed on late in games. He was somebody who was in my mix for who I was going to pick, but it's a very good shout.
Well, it's been interesting because prices of SBCs has felt much more reasonable or well pitched, and I wonder whether that is something to do with the different way of doing the SBCs, because there isn't a chemistry requirement. It's not cornering players as much.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We've not seen fodder, like individual cards that would be fodder usually rise. As you say, it's been more of a kind of across the board rise. And the steps that go from like 84s are around 2,000 coins, 85s are around 7,000 coins, then 86s are 19,000 coins. And you suddenly start getting into, okay, this is a fairly hefty purchase if you're not a kind of hardcore player. But 87s are only 20,000 coins. And I feel like at some point the balance will flip where you're better off going and buying an 87, allowing you to put in more 83s and 84s rather than having to go and buy the 7k 85s. So if you're building an SBC, I would definitely look at buying a higher rated player to allow you to just drop down a few levels in terms of the other players you need to buy. In terms of investment, I mean, 83s at 850, 900 coins, you're going to really struggle to lose coins on those. It may be a while before you see them rise, but if you can pick correctly, maybe look for marquee matchups types, go for the positions that we always get. Goalkeepers, centre-backs, kind of anywhere in midfield will probably be a fairly safe investment. But yeah, I think it's the higher rated fodder that I think still has room to grow. I can't really see 86 rated players going above 18, 19k. That's already incredibly high.
Yeah, well, I'll bring in 𝗵𝘀𝘐 and Richard in a second, but this is something that they've talked about before, so I can ask you and hear what you think, being a bit of a specialist on this. What did you make of the change to this system? I don't know whether it's going to stay, but is it something you think is like positive, not having that chemistry factor really in those SBCs?
I love it. Personally, I think the change to SBCs to not require chemistry has been a massive, massive improvement. The ability to just throw in any card you want and know that you're going to be fine, like you literally just need the rating, has been huge for it. I got to say that Kulusevski SBC, I'm shocked at how much it cost, and it does feel like, although they're pricing them well, we're not getting the 82 or 83 rated squads as much as we have done in the past. And maybe that is because of the lack of chemistry being needed. But you look at someone like Raheem Sterling, who's can play on the same side as Kulusevski, obviously can play on the left as well, but he requires 1 squad less for a player that can have more upgrades. Like Spurs' group is an absolute basket case. Like anybody's beating anybody right now. And so You look at a Sterling card that's already higher rated. I don't know exactly where they're going with the prices of these SBCs, because I'm worried when we start getting icon SBCs where they're going to go, because it has to be higher than what we've already got, and that's going to start getting expensive really quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I found that very odd how cheap Raheem is compared to Kulusevski, because, I mean, as an England fan, I can't really say it's a guaranteed upgrade, but he's got a very good chance, you'd think, of getting a win in the World Cup and the 3 wins, of course. He already had a win when he came out as well, Sterling. So it's kind of like there's an 88 rated, potentially higher, obviously, if you get special items, which can happen like all year. And Kulusevski, I mean, we should now talk about road to the knockout. The way it works is they need to win 2 games in their last 3, and they also need to qualify, which, as you say, is like not a guarantee. And it's not really a guarantee for that many teams in the Champions League generally. I mean, it's a lot of groups are quite tight. Getting 2 wins when, of course, you can draw, happens. It feels a tough ask over 3 games. So whereas 𝗵𝘀𝘀 is priced at like 30k, that's kind of like a risk people are going to be willing to take. Kulusevski for 170 something K when he's only 84 pace. And I mean, I guess he's like a kind of interesting player in terms of being like a bit bigger. He's not like a traditional winger. He has decent defensive stats. Sterling does just look better and is cheaper. So I was kind of confused by that.
Do you think that Kulusevski is a little bit more expensive because of if Spurs were to win 2 out of 3 and go through, he'll obviously get the double upgrade. That double upgrade will come probably by the first week of November, with how quick the Champions League turnaround is. So are they thinking that Sterling's probably going to be he might only get his first upgrade when England, I'm saying when, as if England are going to win a game, but you would expect England to win a game. That could be his first upgrade.
Yeah.
Potentially that could be it.
They've got Villa and Brentford right next. They're both away matches, but
he didn't start against whoever they played last week.
No, but because it's the wins to watch, because they need to win 3 games in those.
Yeah.
So he's already won 1, so they only need to win those 2 matches to get him an upgrade. And then if England win their first match, he'll be upgraded not too long after Kulusevski. I mean, it will be a bit later, but no, you're right. I think factoring in how early the upgrade could come for Kulusevski is probably part of their thinking, for sure. But also sometimes I think they just probably didn't think it out properly, or someone else did the Kulusevski SBC requirements and another person did the Sterling ones, and they didn't quite match up, which is something we'll be talking about probably in a sec regarding heroes. But yeah, is there any other kind of content related stuff? I know we already mentioned the objective player, 𝗏𝘁𝘁𝘁, who's I think a really good player to do. I think a lot of people will probably do that just because it's kind of handy player to have for links and things. I don't think we've had too much else content-wise, unless I've missed something. I know we had the position modifier upgrade. It's worth mentioning that in case people didn't spot it. I mean, you can basically submit any player and you get a position modifier. I guess, Josh, you've probably been taking a look at the price of position modifier items over the start of the cycle. It's been interesting to see. They were quite high, obviously, to start with, but have actually dropped off quite a lot now. But still, it's kind of pricing people out of changing their squads to some extent, isn't it? So I can see why they've done this.
Yeah, which I think was why they released the SBC as so cheap as it was. I mean, one of the easy, lazy trading methods I was using early on was to essentially fill my transfer list with 100 position modifiers bought at kind of the price they were selling for in sort of 58th minute, and then list them all up at 500 coins higher, and you would get 40 or 50 sales every time you listed them. And it was just really lazy and easy. I am so grateful I had none on my transfer list when that SBC came out, because the price absolutely tanked for a little while. It's going to be interesting to track the price of those as we get more packs coming in. You know, the other thing that's happening on the 13th is everyone's going to get their pre-season packs from last year. And so, although there's not going to be an awful lot of players, I think it started adding up towards the end. You're going to get 100Ks plus worth of packs. And so if that's now a new player in your team, you're going to need a position modifier to move people around, sometimes 2. I don't know about you, but when I'm building my teams, I very often position change a player twice, because I'm like, okay, no, we'll go into this formation, so I'll move him out to right wing back. Oh, no, but I need to get him in, so I need to move him back to right back. It's difficult to kind of settle on something very early.
Yeah. And it's interesting to know whether they'll just kind of keep renewing that every week. I guess it lasts for a week.
Yeah.
Which is, possible, I suppose. And that feels like a reasonable amount to just give people 7 position modifiers a week. I kind of wish they would just do 1 SBC for 7 rather than having to go through each SBC to get the 7. But, I guess some people don't want all of them. The other thing I was going to mention, actually, just kind of on this topic, in terms of chemistry and building teams, manager is such a big thing. A bit annoying though, because there's some nations which don't have managers, where you feel like, oh, that's weird. They should have a manager. I mean, Colombia, for example, I was looking for a manager from Colombia. There just aren't any. Kind of made me think, I feel like they need to introduce more managers into the game. Also, maybe, I don't know what people's thoughts on this would be, but having club affiliated managers would be really nice. Obviously, it's a whole extra like chem point that you'd get, or not chem point, but chem contribution you get through that.
It sounds like an icon manager would be a great shout.
Yeah,
Just give everyone one chem point, like 𝘵𝑥�ferguson, 20k, everyone gets a chem point.
I mean, that'd be huge. Yeah.
I agree. I massively agree on the clubs, on managers. This is partly where we've got to suspend a bit of, it's not real football. We should be able to have, like, every nation should have a manager. And then you should be able to add a club, and it would be great for EA. You can add it in as a pack filler. You can get a club item in your bronze, silver, and gold pack, so that you can apply Manchester United to Jurgen Klopp, the dream. And that would be a way, I think, to improve the chem system even further, because then if you just have one player that you want to get in and you don't really have anybody who's going to give him chem, if you can give him a club link and the nation link, he gets 2 chemistry just from the manager. I really think it would open up more avenues in terms of team building.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's been really interesting to get your insights on this part of the pod. More of that in part 2, where we're going to be talking about the whole hero debacle, controversy, mistake. We'll be back in just a moment. Do you know what definitely wasn't a mistake? Setting up the Foot Weekly Patreon, because it means there are now 2 Foot Weekly episodes every week, one of which is exclusively for those supporting. But to support, it's just £3 a month. And that means this week, for example, you'd get an extra episode all about gameplay. We're focusing on particular tactics we've found effective, one which I'm very keen to try out myself, actually. And also talking a lot about passing and how to improve your passing, as that's a real struggle in FIFA 23 so far. And it's also a great time to join up, actually, because there is that 24,000 FIFA point giveaway. So you could easily end up winning back, I guess, the equivalent of like 2 years worth of supporting the podcast. So if you would like to support, then please do. It would be greatly appreciated. You can just search support for weekly, or there'll be a link to the 24,000 FIFA point giveaway in the description of this podcast. A huge thank you for listening. And if you are a supporter, a huge thank you for keeping the podcast going. And if you consider supporting, really appreciate it. Let's get back into part 2. So welcome back after the break, and let's get into talking about the hero error that happened on Saturday. A quick summary. We'll talk about the implications for the game and the market in a little bit, but just to outline what went on. Saturday at 6 p.m. UK content drop time, a pack was released, which was a hero pack for 25k in the store. You can only purchase it once, but of course, pretty much everyone who did see it purchased it, because a foot hero for 25k, it's a no-brainer. I think the FIFA point cost was something like 500 FIFA points. What this, of course, did was mean a lot of people got heroes, and those heroes were actually tradable too. Clearly, this was a mistake because it was removed within, I think, about 10 minutes. But obviously, in that time, you had people coming on, seeing this pack, buying it, and selling a hero, which caused hero prices to drop dramatically. Like so much, probably 80% of the value of some heroes was lost in that moment. And then when the pack was removed, the heroes did bounce back quite a bit, potentially because people just realized that this wasn't a sustainable drop and that they were going to bounce back. But someone on Twitter actually worked out what had gone on, right, Josh? And it was sort of a seemingly pretty minor error.
Yeah, it was at FUT Scoreboard on Twitter posted that the way that the packs are released is done on an ID basis. Every pack has a ID, and there was a Road to the Knockout Foundations pack in the code, and it got overwritten on Friday with a Foot Heroes pack for the same ID. And so then I think obviously in their content system, it's just pushed out that pack ID into the store at the same price, but it was a tradable Foot Heroes pack instead. Where the Foot Heroes pack was supposed to come is another question. But yeah, it was supposed to be a Road to the Knockout Foundations pack.
It makes sense because the pack that they overwrote was a pack that was very likely to come over this period, and a hero pack is something they probably release at some point through SBC or something. So they basically cocked up the IDs, and they removed it. But obviously, the damage was done to the price of heroes. If you came into this weekend with, for example, a 𝘬𝘃𝗁𝘁, who you considered perhaps selling a few days earlier for 730k, and at 6 p.m. suddenly this hero pack came out, and suddenly he's dropped, and you could actually snipe him for about 200k during that window. This example I'm using, not a complete coincidence. It is, in fact, what happened to me. And part of the reason why I was able to get him was because I was on the game slightly early, which is a huge advantage. So I'm not complaining myself, but for people who are in a similar situation, I think it is a very painful thing to experience, your players dropping such a significant amount. I mean, I spoke to a few people who literally had only heroes. That was the only thing they had coins in. And some people kind of panic sold, thinking the pack was going to be out for a week, which was how long it said it was out, and that the prices would continue to drop, and did panic sell for, really quite low, because they're really worried, and so lost a huge amount of coins, like most of their club value as a result. So I think, and be interested to know what people think, I think this is the biggest content mistake EA have ever made from a kind of market impact perspective. I mean, it didn't affect other cards so much, but to have hyped new items, heroes, which people have been buying and adding to their team because they're exciting, and then for those players to lose such a huge amount of value, I think is probably one of the worst things we've seen, especially at this stage of the cycle as well. Richard, were you around? Did you manage to take advantage of the pack?
Well, not only you talked about the negatives of the pack there, Ben. There was some positives, and that was being sat in Slug and Lettuce at 6 p.m. and seeing a message saying, "There's a pack out, go and buy it." I went and bought the pack. I got 𝘁, and then I thought, I wonder if the price of heroes are quite low. So I went and bought myself a 𝘬𝘯𝘁𝗏𝘀𝘀 for 950,000 coins, and made some very, very nice profit on it. So there's silver linings, but I think for a lot of the people that you talked about there, you included, it was, it was just a real catastrophic mistake. Like, I imagine there's major backlash within EA at the minute for whoever sort of changed the code or how this went out. There's really not a lot to say. I think it's just really unfortunate, for people. I know I mentioned compensation earlier, but there's been, from my understanding, no official wording from EA about this pack. Like, it's silent, and I almost expect it to stay silent. Like, you can't please everybody on this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think we're going to get anything. I think it's just going to be a dark day, forget about it, move on. And we might see something in the future, like a really cheap pack, almost as a sorry, but I don't think we're going to get anything out of it.
It's really interesting, just quickly, I think there's another reason why people are annoyed, I should mention too, of course, is that they weren't on.
Yep.
They weren't, looking at their phone in the Slug and Lettuce. They were, I don't know, buying a drink at the time, right? And they didn't see. So that meant that they missed out on the opportunity to buy the pack because it went within 10 minutes, which in itself is obviously very frustrating, because you had the chance of getting yourself a good hero who you could sell for profit, or the opportunity to buy a hero really cheap, because they did bounce back, and we'll talk about that. I mean, I myself did buy the pack, made a technical loss because it was '𝗬𝘃, but he did rise afterwards. I did keep him. He was obviously not going to stay as cheap as he was at that moment, so I held on to him. But it wasn't, for people who missed it, there was definitely no guarantee that you were going to strike big, and obviously that your chances of striking big were quite low, actually. But for people who lost coins, very frustrating. Prices did bounce back a bit, but I don't know, Japes, what could they even do about this? Like, unless they kind of roll back everything, which they're obviously not going to do now because it's been like a few days.
Can't do it. Yeah, they can't do that because the coins are gone.
Spending money on the packs as well, so you can't really take it away.
Yeah, my first inclination was for everybody that hasn't opened a pack, let's just give them an untradeable hero early.
Yeah.
Like EA, unpredictable things have happened on the market, so I feel like less bad for folks that maybe lost some coins on the market. I think I'm the folks, and probably this is putting on my own situation here, but I would have liked to have opened the pack. I think most people would have liked to have opened the pack. It feels like for some people, it's probably changed the trajectory of their FIFA cycle. I don't know what's going to be possible on this cycle for them. So I'd say just give people the untradeable hero. they're going to give out untradeable hero packs like anyway. I don't think having one hero, knowing like the probable pack odds anyway, will be game breaking if you give them out untradeable.
It's funny though, because the pack visually was labeled as untradeable, but it wasn't untradeable. So there's this other point that actually people who open the pack tradable should get compensation
That's insane.
of a tradable pack.
I'm fuming that it was tradable. I cannot believe it. I'm expecting compensation very soon.
Yeah.
You know, it's to me, Ben, it's like a hierarchy thing, right? In EA's content, like tradable packs are deemed more valuable than untradeable packs, right? So if you were given something of more value, compensation is out of the question.
It's funny, isn't it? Because they've done untradeable packs in the store recently, and those are cheaper, so therefore they can say, well, actually, untradeable things are worse.
Yeah, that's true. They're going to end up giving out a hero loan for like 25 gold.
Yeah. I mean, generally, I could imagine that. Josh, what are your thoughts on this? I don't think we've really heard from you yet.
There's a wider point here, which is how they deal with these situations in general. I tend to always be on the wrong side of these things where I missed completing an SBC early or getting my rewards early or any of those things where there's been a mistake and then I get great compensation for it. And I'm always super frustrated. And so it'd be unfair for now me being on the other side. I got a 𝘵𝘃𝗲𝗀𝘀, saw that he was 150k on the market and went and bought 3 more of him and he's now back up to 400k. It would be unfair of me to be like, no, this is fine, and we should just, everyone should carry on their merry way. The thing that really sticks with me is what happened afterwards, which was the rebound of the price, which felt incredibly unnatural. And I'm not a massive one for conspiracy theories, but I was looking at 𝘬𝘃𝗀𝗀𝘀, and about 4 pages of 𝘬𝘃𝗀𝗀 in a 150k price range just disappeared within about 10 seconds. You know, I backed out and refreshed, and they were just gone. And the purchases of those cards went back up to essentially the level they were before. And then people started selling again because they'd seen the price come back up, and then everyone started selling and the price came back down and settled to a kind of what it is now. So I kind of feel like that was EA trying to rebalance the market. But what that did was inject, millions of coins into the market really early in the game cycle. We haven't really seen the effect on other players' prices of that just yet. I think mainly because it was the hardcore traders that benefited the most. I don't know what the solution is. If they give everybody an untradeable hero pack, yeah, it may be the case that they just completely destroy the pack weight and everyone gets a 𝘗𝘃𝘀. But even an untradeable one, those people that did open the pack and had a tradable hero are now going to sell that one because they've now got an untradeable version, or anybody who owns one that then packs the tradable version, it will have a massive impact on the market again. It may be that this was, we know it wasn't deliberate, but with the World Cup hero items coming fairly soon, within a month or so, it's a month and 10 days, I think, until the start of the World Cup, the price of those heroes is going to dip because they're getting a better version soon. And so I don't know long-term what effect it will have on the market, but I sympathize with anybody who was, having dinner or buying a drink or had an untimely trip to the toilet,
Putting their son down for a nap.
The other thing as well, I don't know if I missed this, but it was all a bit hazy. It was a hysteria on Saturday when this pack came out. There was an 82 plus Team of the Week pack as well that got ripped off the store.
Yeah, there was, yeah.
So that were on for equal amount of time. I don't really think anybody opened that because it was really expensive. But it was intriguing that 2 packs went up that weren't supposed to, not just one.
Yeah, I wonder why they removed that, because was there any issue with it? Maybe, I don't know. Do you think they just panicked and thought we'd better take them both away?
Yeah, just revert.
Yeah, maybe.
It'd be interesting to see what they do, because they're going to have to do something, because actually in other languages, they displayed the text for the pack they intended to put out and had accidentally swapped for the hero pack. Whereas in English, it said what the hero pack was. In other languages, it said what it should have said. And so those players didn't get the right pack
or what it said, certainly. So they'll have to put out something about that for sure, I would think. So we'll hear something. I've sent a strongly worded letter on behalf of FUT Weekly listeners about this, of course, but I don't know what we'll hear about it in terms of sorting out UK compensation, if there is really any, or any kind of remedy for the market. I'm not sure where things stand on that. It's a very tricky one indeed. Hopefully they improve their system so we don't see such a kind of disastrous error in terms of its market impact. We see a lot of errors and sometimes they're very beneficial and people get frustrated because they don't benefit. But in terms of true negative impact, I think this has been the worst we've seen. In terms of that impact, the market has recovered a fair bit. I know you're across it, Josh, even though you don't label yourself a trader as such. So, yeah, what has been going on with the market since then?
Yeah, it's interesting because it felt like the first weekend league crash that seems to happen every year happened before weekend league even started, or FUT Champs as it is now even started. It was kind of Thursday night into Friday. You started seeing a lot of players dip down. What I think is different this year about previous years is kind of the Messi Ronaldo factor. The fact that neither of those are kind of pushing up towards 1 million coins. I think at this stage last year, Ronaldo would have been well over 1 million coins. We've only got 𝘵𝘃𝘁 as the sort of 1 million coin gold player this year. That means that all of those other cards, especially the heroes, and especially with the chemistry, them just getting full chemistry as long as they're in the right position, meant that, as you say, they are the kind of marquee players. I would even probably say above icons. I've come up against way more heroes probably because of that pack than I have done icons. And so the fact that it was that market that was affected was really interesting to see how, everyone kind of bought in, and then there was this massive rise back up, and then everyone started trying to sell to get their profits, and it's now settled. I don't think the price drop has been too dramatic. If you look at someone like 𝘰𝗻𝘬𝘰, he was in the 2 millions. He dropped down to about 1 million coins and is now, I checked this morning, he was about 1.8, 1.9 million. So they will slowly go back up. I just wonder if EA will now turn down the pack weight on heroes in order to kind of try and rebalance the number of them in circulation, that we'll then see as we get, as I say, getting into the World Cup, that then they can just go back to normal again. In terms of the rest of the market, it feels like we had that dip and everyone went, this is a bit weird. And now people have got out of the mid to low tier metas and have now got a kind of set team that they're thinking of going into next weekend with. I'm sure lots of people have replaced their striker with a red Sorlop, for example, if you were lucky enough to get him. That kind of sell-off of the 84s and lower, that will continue, I reckon, over the next week or so. But that massive coin influx into the market has to have an effect at some point, and I don't know if we've seen it. I don't know if it's still too close to it. Maybe it'll be those really super expensive cards that we'll see start going up a little bit more because the people who've got the coins to do it have now got even more coins. It was a weird 45 minutes, to say the least.
Yeah, I should pick up a point actually, because EA did, or a community manager did disclose or say that they don't change pack weight dynamically. And it's something that I've heard on good authority too. So I don't know whether they maybe would see this as an exceptional circumstance where they could do that, because essentially they made an error and they could correct it through doing that. But that would also mean that people were less likely to pack heroes moving forward, which would potentially be unfair on those players moving forward who were to open pack. So it's a tricky situation. I think heroes are in danger anyway because of World Cup heroes coming. I think there are some that won't be so affected. Potentially, actually, 𝘅𝘁𝘁 is one that won't be, and it's one of the reasons why I was keeping him, because he's got a non-Premier League version coming, and also you got the fact that the upgrade isn't huge, which is the case for some of these. That being said, they're all quite likely to decline anyway, to be honest. I'm interested to know from you, Josh, what you think about gold rares. I mean, yes, we actually saw a bit of a bounce, I guess, and it's possible there was a coin influx to some extent because of the whole heroes debacle, but we can't really know that for sure. There hasn't been a huge jump though, and realistically gold rares are likely to decline, right?
Yeah, I agree. I do think, if you just look at any previous year's graphs, it's all downhill from here, except for, in the past has been fodder cards, but I think they're going to rise on a slightly slower curve than they did last year. It'll be interesting to see, because you can't stack up a lot of cards in unassigned this year. It's I think you're maxed to 50. So you can only ever own sort of 201 of the same card. It will be interesting to see what kind of effect that has. Let's say if we get picks in the next 24 hours or so for Road to the Knockouts, just on the non-rare golds and rare golds that are at discard price, in terms of if you're looking to trade, that would be where I would be going for the very safe small flips rather than trying to go for anything big, because there's been a massive market shock. And I think that in terms of people buying players for their team, we're only really going to go see it going down from here.
And it looks like, judging by, code added, we're going to get rule breakers soon, which is always something that, well, I say always, when we've had rule breakers, it has actually had like a fairly decent impact on the market in terms of, I guess, golds, but also other meta players, because they've introduced quite a few good meta options into the game, essentially, which is interesting. And I think that's a good place to end it. Josh, thank you very much for coming on. Really, really appreciate your insight, and understand you're going to join us for the gameplay pod as well. So look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on.
How did you get on in Champs, actually? We can leave that as a little cliffhanger.
I did okay. I got 3 picks, but I was 11 and out. I had 4 games left, and I didn't fancy trying to sweat it out to 14. Gave away the 4 wins like all good people should, and I took my picks.
Yeah, nice, great. Yeah, we'll chat more about that on the gameplay pod. And we should say as well, Josh, where can people catch you if they want to find your content and your spreadsheets?
Yeah, SpreadsheetFIFA on Twitch. I stream there 3 or 4 times a week whenever I can. YouTube and on Twitter. Twitter's kind of my main protocol, SpreadsheetFIFA.
Nice. And we can also ask Richard where to find him, because he's streaming these days as well, which is great to see.
You find me on Twitter, Twitch, you name it, at @𝘵buckley98. I'm not going to be on the gameplay pod. I'm going to be in London Heathrow tomorrow, as of recording.
Where are you going?
I can't confirm yet. Well, I can actually, because it should have gone out by the time. Colombia.
Oh, Colombia. That's exciting.
For some esports FIFA work. So I'll be over there. No gameplay pod. However, I did finish 17-3. So maybe next time you can
Very nice.
Get some tips.
Look forward to hearing about that. And we'll also be chatting to AirJapes, who's here as well. Thank you very much, Japes, for joining us on this pod, as always.
Cheers, Ben. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And thank you to those listeners out there listening along. If you would like this podcast directly into your podcast feed, then do subscribe on all the various podcast platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from, and also, of course, on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, leave a like, very much helps out, and leave a comment too. For now, though, thank you very much to those supporters keeping the podcast going, and a reminder to enter the 24,000 FIFA point giveaway. Just search Support Foot Weekly. The giveaway will be right there. And a big thank you to those icon patrons: Dave B, Hugh J, Coach Vass, Alan G, Alistair, Anthony R, Dominic P, Rob P, Jeff B, Stephen F, Tom B, Damon H, David S, Nick Jack M, Eric T, Neil P, Adam G, Elliot M, Dan W, @𝗵𝘀𝗬𝗀𝘀, Roger D, Jake G, Springford, Nishant, Harry P, Alex M, Lee A, Brendan W, Andrew C, Joe W, Timothy J, Dylan, Adam R, Sam K, Graham W, Andy, Ads H2K, and Brian V. Plus a special thanks to Luke M, Dave B, Hugh J, Tom M, Darren W, and Pato Foot for advice and production assistance. Before I leave you, just one more thing to add, though. FIFA's a bit like life, really. It has its many ups and its many downs. If you're having a few more downs than ups in real life in these more difficult times, then please don't feel that you're alone or need to struggle on without taking action. If you go to thecalmzone.net, there's loads of resources, advice, support, or even just a friendly chat for anyone who needs it. If it sounds like it could help you, then head over to thecalmzone.net. And for now, have a good one, and I'll catch you on the next podcast.